This conference will now be recorded.
Okay, go ahead and call this meeting to order. Regular town meeting of February 15th. And I wanted to welcome everyone and those of you here and also calling in and online. Welcome. I'm glad that you are all here this evening with us. And I'll do a roll call for attendance. Commissioner Anaya?
Here.
Commissioner Powers?
Here.
I am here. Commissioner Brennan?
Here.
And Commissioner Donner?
Here.
Okay. Any other introductory comments? Let's the pledge. Let's stand. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I salute the flag of the state of New Mexico and to be a symbol of perfect friendship among united cultures.
Okay, agenda approval is next. A motion to approve the agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve tonight's agenda.
I second.
Okay, and motion then seconded. Any discussion, changes, questions? If not, all those.
Madam
yes.
Chair, Madam Mayor,
Commissioner.
under the approval of the agenda, where we have the minutes, motion to approve the minutes from
We do have one that's from the past that had never been approved.
1, 2, 3.
In April 14th, 2021.
I'd like to just state that we're voting on these for the approval of the minutes for the record only, to state that these minutes were not, or any of the commission members were involved in these minutes.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments, questions, concerns? All those in favor of the agenda signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. We'll move to the minutes approval, and the first item is April 14th of last year. And as Commissioner and I is pointing out, these are very old, but had some changes that had not been approved in the past. They went through a lot of different meetings, so I'm sure those of you who, followed the packets and went through the meetings with us at that time are somewhat familiar with them. The changes to the original meeting minutes are still reflected in color. You can see that there. So I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from April 14th, 2021 as presented with the changes.
So,
Who seconded? Commissioner Anaya seconded. And any comments, questions, discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, January 18th, 2022. Okay. Will someone make a motion to approve, and then we can discuss?
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I make a motion to approve the minutes for January 18th, 2022.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, Commissioner Brennan seconds. And so the discussion I have on here is just adding in on the second page there some language to reflect our discussion on the liquor license, because the line where it says commissioners discuss leaving the septic tank. So I just wanted to add, and since this is a hearing on the liquor license only, to recommend approval or not, to New Mexico Regulation and Licensing Department. The governing body does not have authority to require this. The applicant stated he was the lessee, but would bring up the request to the lessor landowner. And then a small typo under the motion on that same page where it says, Commissioner Naya made the motion, and it just says city instead of town, so that's just a small typo there. And to add, Commissioner Anaya was designated as the hearing officer, which I believe does need to be documented for RLD. So that would come at the very beginning of the meeting to add that he was designated as the hearing officer for this meeting. Those are the only changes that I have. I guess I'll make a motion to add those particular changes as I just stated.
Second.
Commissioner Anaya, second. Any discussion, questions? Okay, so all those in favor of my motion for these additions signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay. Now we're back to any discussion on the minutes. We do have a section for public comment here. And so with these minutes from January, my recommendation is going to be that we go ahead and approve the minutes. But at the same time, I think it's important to our public to have their comments reflected in the minutes. And in the past, that was something that was taken away from them. As far as I feel like their voice kind of was eliminated. And so it's important to me anyways, that's my recommendation, that in the future and also for these, that we can approve them tonight, but we should have at least a, little summary on each of the public comment sections, stating what the person from the public said, the content of what they said, just a brief summary. I'll recommend that. But I guess if there's no other discussion, we can vote on approving these minutes of January 18th.
So are you recommending that we amend these at a later date, or just change the practice going forward?
Both.
Okay.
Great. So I'm thinking what we can do is approve them tonight, add in the public comments. You can present them in the next packet, and then we will approve them maybe in a consent agenda so that we don't have to go through each one. And as long as the public comments are reflected accurately, I think it should be just very quick to amend. And then from here going forward, of course, we'll have the summaries of their comments. Okay, so let's go ahead and vote on the approval of these minutes. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Move to the minutes of January 26th.
Are we making a motion for the first or the?
January 26th, because we just did the 18th,
Oh, okay.
so we need the 26th. Okay.
I make a motion that we approve the minutes from January 26, 2022.
I'll second.
Okay, Commissioner Powers, second. Any questions, concerns, discussion on these? And again, the same thing will apply as far as adding in the public comments. Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any
Aye.
opposed? And then it's passed. Next, the February 1st minutes.
I make a motion to approve the minutes from February 1st, 2022.
Second.
Okay, Commissioner Brennan, second. And any discussion, questions, changes, additions, deletions?
Go ahead.
Madam Chair, were we in session by any chance when we celebrated Commissioner Donner's son's birthday?
We were.
I don't see it in.
Okay. Yeah, that's probably a one line that we could add in there just to, reflect that. I remember taking a point, I think it's called in Robert's Rules of Point of Personal Privilege, so we can, that's the way we can term it.
So is that a friendly amendment?
That's what I was gonna say, yeah. Are you okay with that amendment?
Yes.
All right.
One other thing on this, under number 9C under the motion, Commissioner Sterling,
Oh,
where I don't mind that, it's proper, it's Commissioner Donner.
right. Okay, I think you're probably okay with that too, Commissioner Brennan, making that change.
Yes.
Okay. All right, anything else? All right, all those in favor with the, 2 additions mentioned signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the minutes for February 1st pass. Next, we would like to hear from the public, and this section, is specifically for our public comments, on agenda items. So if you have general public comments, we hear those later. It also gives you an opportunity to think of things or, later on have a voice as well. But right now, we would like to hear from you, on any agenda items, anything that you would like to mention. So we'll start here in the room. Any members of the public who would like to speak, please come up and state your name and your comment, please.
Good morning. It is so refreshing to be able to do stuff like this. I just can't begin to acknowledge how much I appreciate the return to normalcy and respect. That being said, I would like to take the opportunity to address the efforts being made on the Cannabis Ordinance. There's no action on the agenda tonight, but there is a call for a public meeting listed, so I'm going to take that as my privilege to mention that at this public speaking. I'm a little bit concerned with the way things have been put together. The way this ordinance has been put together, it's almost like the old England, the Vikings are coming, hide the women and children, everything bad is going to happen, by God, this is going to be awful, we got to lock the doors and gates and stuff. I don't disagree that there's risk. I don't disagree that there's credible and legitimate concerns that need to be addressed, but there's a lot of positives here. I would think it would be appropriate, and I think it would be very positive for us to embrace the opportunity here and maybe look at some bright spots in here where we might be able to take advantage and really turn this into a really good opportunity for the future. So if it's not too late, if we could maybe take a step back, take a look at what's in there, and let's see what we can do to embrace this and turn this into a positive. I think we're all going to benefit and win. Maybe we can take advantage of the GRTs from it. Maybe we can take advantage of community events, things like that. I noticed one thing in there is a prohibition of sales on Sunday. That makes no sense to me. I don't understand that at all. So if we could revisit a lot of that stuff before the public hearing, I think that would be really good. I did notice that there's quite a few typos, misspelled words, things like that. So it's not quite ready for prime time yet, even as it is. I did also notice under the usage part, I thought it was kind of interesting. It says that the usage, I don't remember the exact wording, but something to the effect that the usage on site has to, of cannabis has to be pure cannabis only. Then the next sentence is, use of other prescribed substances is allowed. That almost seems contradictory to me. I wonder if the word not got left out of that. So that might be worth taking a look at that, because the way it's written, you're going to allow it to be mixed with fentanyl and heroin and cocaine and some of these other things that I don't think any of us really want to have running. So, like I say, I really, really appreciate what's been done, the amount of work, the amount of effort. I know this has to be put in place by a certain deadline because of the upcoming legislation. But if we can turn this into a positive, I think we'd all benefit.
Madam Mayor,
Commissioner Anaya?
point of order, please. Could the gentleman state his name for the record?
No, I didn't. My name is Bryce Simons. I live at 27 Hillcrest Road.
Thank you, Brian.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
Deborah Brennan, 94 Square Ridge Road. Thank you very much for letting me talk regarding this cannabis ordinance. I've talked to a lot of my neighbors, and I'm in agreement with them. A lot of us do not want it here in our town. I realize that state law has said we must allow it. Therefore, I strongly advise that you make this ordinance as strong and clear as possible. I grew up with the adage of, this is your brain on drugs. And I know a lot of people that put their brain on drugs, and they're not all with us today. So I think that we need to really spell out exactly what you mean and what you want. For example, exactly where the cameras are to be placed and what they are supposed to be filming, in addition to whatever else they want to film. Exactly when a video copy is made available. According to the ordinance, part of it said immediately and part of it said within 24 hours. I think it should be made available immediately. So nothing can be deleted or lost or misplaced or whatever could happen. I also think that we do need to be very explicit on what is to be consumed. I agree with Mr. Simons. Cannabis only, cannabis substances, that wasn't quite clear. I do know that in the news last night, they've already got businesses opened up, and they haven't even, that's not even under law yet. So they're already opening. If they're going to push the limit there, are they going to push the limit onto what they're consuming in the recreational rooms or whatever they're called? So I think we need to be very, very specific on that. I think the penalties and violations need to be high. I was always taught, hit them where it hurts in the pocketbook. I do realize that a violation on Monday, if it's not corrected, it counts as another violation on Tuesday. Therefore, make the penalties very high. $1,000 for the first, $2,000 for the second, $3,000 for the third. If they get it fixed on the third day, that's a $6,000 penalty. They'll get it fixed really quick when they're looking at that. The distance between the establishments, it wasn't clear how far that was. So I don't know what kind of leeway we have legally wise to do. I would prefer one for a 5 square mile radius and limit as many businesses as possible in our town. We filmed this week people not following the rules. We had a lady shooting up at Mr. Gas. We've got folks opening up businesses in Albuquerque, and it's not even law yet. So I think we really need to be specific so they can't use the excuse of, well, I interpreted it differently. We don't want any error in that, I would think. Leave no question as to what is to be expected, required, and what those penalties are. Do not act as our state government does with short vision. You're going to have to think like somebody who's trying to get away with something. We don't want them here, so the majority of us don't, as far as I understand, but we do have to accommodate them because of state law. Is there a way we can make cannabis a tax, just like they did a cigarette tax, and do a cannabis use tax? That would help to benefit the town. We have to put up with it, at least get something out of it. And the only other thing I said is we want to make this super strong. We want to be perfectly clear that they will abide by our rules, our requirements, and what this town wants and needs, and that they will be strictly enforced to the maximum of the law. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else here in the room? Come on up.
Is this the time to discuss those items on the agenda which relate to the public hearing and the, call for public hearing?
Yes, sir, come on up.
Okay,
Name and address.
Raymond H. Siggers. And I have some comments on the Procurement Ordinance, okay? And my first comment relates to the Statement of Policy, Section 3 on page 3. And I think there's some words in there that need to be eliminated or changed. And you got, in the second sentence, under Section 3, Policy, you state that the principles of integrity, transparency, accountability, fairness, et cetera, on a decision making of public investment and purchases will minimize corruption. How small a minimum can you have in corruption? What did you have in mind? I think it needs to eliminate corruption, okay? Not just allow a little, all right? On the third sentence, it talks about maximize economic, financial, social, environmental, and political benefits. I don't think you're trying to get political benefits, okay? And I think you should scratch that. That to me means, you know, well, the governor might give us more money if we just go ahead and do this or do that. When we go with our handout, I don't think political benefits have any place in our procurement situation. Also, the other major thing in here are the limits. And I've got real heartburn with setting $60,000 as the amount we can appoint somebody, not an elected official, to spend, whether it's a bid or not. I think that's way too high a figure, and I think that's a figure injected, partially by the last administration, that leaves a lot of decisions for a whole lot of money to be spent that is not brought to the attention of this board. You've delegated your authority to that person, and though he might follow the idea of getting bids, his brother-in-law, his cousin, I think it's probably a very good idea to cut that figure where you don't approve an expenditure way down. I suggest $10,000 or $5,000. We meet every 2 weeks. Most situations that we have can be rectified within 2 weeks. And my elected officials should make those kind of decisions. I also have problems with the small investment, page 4, B, 3,000. I think anything over 3,000, you ought to take a serious look. You know, maybe 5,000, but a much smaller figure where this elected body makes the decision to spend that money. So, you know, basically where that's mentioned many times in this ordinance, I think that's a real important change to make. Now, I'd like to talk about the Economic Development Committee. And I think I see a mistake. It's just not a clear thing here. On the first page, these pages aren't numbered, but the first page that I downloaded, under membership qualifications meetings, you spell out who can serve in paragraph B, okay? But on paragraph A, you say it should contain a minimum of 5 citizens. And B, you say, you know, they can be people from the extraterritorial zone, people with expertise, own a business, this type of thing. So I think you're contradicting yourself using the word citizens in paragraph A. It's individuals you're talking about who will serve, and then you say it'll be made up of X amount of people, and who can be on it. So I think that's a conflict, it's not clear. Is it 5 citizens, or is it 5 people that, of the type you spell out in paragraph B? I got a real heartburn with the next page, and that would be section 1.3, duties and responsibilities of this group. Okay? And this is an advisory group that comes to you and tries to promote economic development. That's great. But in subparagraph C, A, B, C, D, E, echo, you say develop and advocate for economic development strategy that maximizes commercial property tax revenues. Is that what you wanted to say? Because, you know, you raise my taxes, I'll just move to Moriarty just because I'm commercial here, and a lot of people will. Raising property taxes should never be a goal of this committee or a recommendation, or they shouldn't be guided that way. I think what you're really looking at, and I think what is meant here, correct me if I'm wrong, is that the economic development strategy should increase the number of sources of commercial property tax revenue. You see what I'm saying? You want more businesses, okay? You don't want to try to soak the existing businesses for as much taxes as you can. And that's what it really says in the body here. Another thing I think we leave out, and I think this committee, when formed, should think about, is that, let's go to J, paragraph J, all right? I think you support and encourage new businesses, and I think there, after businesses, you should say large and small, okay? Seeking to locate in Edgewood, and existing businesses seeking to remain or expand in the town, and there, after town, I strongly suggest you place in there, including home-based businesses. Okay, we seem to have left that out of the whole philosophy here. And there are so many businesses in Edgewood that started out small, started out home-based, and, you know, are bigger businesses now, fledgling and successful. There's some that fail, but all businesses have a chance to fail. But I don't think we should forget that home-based business situation. L, paragraph L, committee is responsible for providing information to staff relative to business development situations, perceived or real. And after real, I think the word negatively affecting business climate within the town. I think the word negatively should be added there. What you want this group to know and get feedback on for people that applied for a business and got shot down for some reason or can't, because of our zoning, you know, have the type of business they want to put in. So I think that this group that, you know, makes suggestions to you should be looking for the negatives that chase businesses off. And I don't know a damn thing about cannabis, so I'm not going to even comment on that. All right, that's it. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Speakers. Those are great, great comments. Good feedback. And exactly why we put this on here. So, anyone else here in the room? Okay, let's go to caller 2. Caller 2, do you have any public comments on agenda items? Okay, then we'll move to the go-to meeting participants. You can feel free to unmute yourself and state your comment, your name, your address, and your comment, please. Okay, hearing none. Yes.
Madam Mayor?
Yes, sir.
Hi, Madam Mayor. Santos Martinez, 12 Tanager Terrace, Angel Fire, New Mexico, 87710. I'm just trying to serve as a resource if needed. I helped draft the Cannabis Ordinance for the Village of Angel Fire as a third-party contractor. I think that It's unique in Angel Fire, some of the circumstances we have to allow retail sales compared to where you are in Edgewood. For example, we have no allowance in any of our zoning districts for agricultural production because we just don't have the water rights to sustain that. So in Angel Fire, we do not allow any production of cannabis within our village limits. We do have the allowance for retail sales of cannabis, but we do not allow tasting rooms. I believe the statute that we've been looking at said you do have that option if that's something you'd like to consider. The statute also states that each municipality has the ability to regulate the density, which means how many do you want within your municipality. So we took that to limit, as you have, the zoning districts where they're allowed. If they're allowed in an overlay, we are now going to amend our ordinance to provide for the manufacturing of cookies and gummies and things of that nature. But we've got different standards for where that can occur. And lastly, I know that the state statute says that there are minimum standards of 300 feet from schools and daycares, but that doesn't prohibit the municipality from adding additional protective uses. For example, in Angel Fire, we have a distance spacing required from a residential use and a residential district. So there are some commercial areas where on the boundaries it abuts and transitions back to residential, and we prefer these establishments to be along our heavy commercial corridor. So the intent was to put them more closer to the highway with the mix with all the other retail establishments that we have. And so those are just my comments, and I'm happy to serve as a resource if you feel that one is needed. We did take sections of our proposed draft ordinance in November to a conversation that Municipal League had hosted, and we used a lot of our templates with similar language in the land use standards of Angel Fire, which regulate businesses for where you have to be 21 and older in order to enter. For example, liquor stores and adult bookstores. And so we try, or even medicinal cannabis, where we blended some of the language from those three sections to draft the ordinance that we have today. We are going to make an amendments for manufacturing allowance, but the purpose of my call and being present is, if needed, to serve as a resource for Edgewood if you feel you need further assistance. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Martinez. I just wanted to give the commissioners here an opportunity. Did you have any questions, comments for him while we have him here?
Madam Chair.
Yes, Commissioner Naya.
I do. Mr. Martinez, the ordinance that you guys have worked on, has that already gone in front of the council for approval?
Madam Mayor, Commissioners, yes, we adopted our retail ordinance in November of last year. We were trying as diligently as we could. As you may recall, there was a special session in June that put everybody kind of on notice, and we were just getting a lot of pressure because we had already had folks coming to Angel Fire to spot out property. And so we just tried to be as dedicated as we could. But yes, our ordinance was adopted in November or late October of last year. And we also left some things open-ended because we knew the legislature was coming back for a 30-day session. And the mayor has informed us that there were some conversations about revisions to the statute last night. I don't know how those amendments fared. So we were concerned that whatever we would put on the books might get revised again in Santa Fe once the 30 session day started. I will point out that there are some things that we put in our ordinance that are explicit for cameras in coordination with the fire department, because we felt if those standards changed at the state level, we still had a local control to talk about the resolution of cameras, and that our police department would be within the 24-hour request, have access to those records to make sure that it was more of a belt and suspenders type of ordinance in those situations. And that's primarily coming forth on our manufacturing amendments. But on the retail side, we took that into effect before everybody left for Thanksgiving break.
Did, by any chance, the attorneys, surely had gone through it and corrected the whole 9 yards?
Yes, sir. We had gone prior to final adoption of second reading at council. We looked at comments that had been entertained at the public input portion of the process, and then also our village attorney made sure that the syntax was correct and that it also merged, as you probably have already done. You know, in the spring, the police chief had worked with this village attorney to update all of the penal codes with relations to cannabis. And so we've had to do this gymnastics exercise of, although this is in the land use portion of the code, we also had to reference back to other sections with respect to the criminality of this substance within the village limits. So I think had really good counsel to make sure that all those lined up correctly. And again, I know that this is a bit of a taxing exercise for staff and for a lot of municipalities. And so if there's any assistance that you feel that I may be able to provide, I'm happy to provide it.
Thank you, sir.
Happy to help.
Mayor, I have a question.
Sure.
Mr. Martinez, I really appreciate your comments. I was wondering if you could provide us the current draft of the Angel Fire Ordinance. There's some good options in there that I'd like to take a look at.
I'm happy to send you one. We've actually had a request, and you're going to see this because it's coming. There are brokers for cannabis retail sales, and I believe this company is out of California based on their website, and they're going to start coming around asking for copies of their ordinance so that they can match that with people who are interested in coming to your municipality. I have asked our village clerk to get us the clean version of what was adopted, and I'm happy to forward that to whomever you feel is appropriate in Edgewood, so you get a current copy.
Thank you very much. Maybe we could get that to the town manager. Mr. Martinez?
Yes, I can get that. I'll look on your website and get that email address and forward it to your town manager.
Okay, and if you could also provide her with your contact information, I really appreciate your experience with this, and I think it would help us a lot.
I'm happy to help. I did my graduate studies in planning at UNM, and I've been doing land use consulting with various cities and also in the private sector for 20 years. And for the record, I'm now acting manager for the Village of Angel Fire as well. So I should be easy to find on the website, but I'm happy to coordinate with your manager as well.
Thank you, sir.
Any other comments, questions from the commission?
Madam Mayor, I'd like to point out one more thing. I know that you had some conversations from members of the audience. I would like to point a comparison, the Village of Eagle Nest and their ordinance that they adopted in the fall as well. And they had to go through several supplemental first readings because of a lot of the comments they received at the public forum. But Eagle Nest is very restrictive. And this makes sense. There's only 250 people in the village, but their ordinance is crafted so that a retail cannabis establishment is only allowed within a certain intersection in the village, which really limits it to just one establishment. So it is not uncommon with your discretion as a municipality to either go to one end of the spectrum of being very restrictive. We originally looked at a spacing requirement similar to yours of 1,000 feet between establishments. But then the conversation was we would rather have them condensed in certain areas on our business corridor. And so that section was dropped, but that there was a lot of conversation about it. So I just want to let you know that there's a lot of flexibility on how you as commissioners want to craft this ordinance specific to your municipality that you do still have leeway on. So I just like to point that out. And again, I'll coordinate with your manager on my contact information and a clean version of our ordinance as well.
Okay, thank you very much.
Madam Mayor, I got one question for, Mr.
Commissioner
Martinez.
Brennan?
Mr. Martinez, how did the Angel Fire, handle the odor control, within the, cannabis business, or did you address that?
Which part was that? The which control?
That's for, on odor control from a cannabis business?
In our ordinance, we have similar language regarding venting and odor, and we've asked that be coordinated with our fire department. And our fire chief had a interesting point. If there's a fire in this establishment, they want the vents to be on a separate electrical circuit. So when they cut the power, these items are still vented out of the building and won't inhibit his staff from conducting the search and rescue and combating the fire that they need to. And so I would recommend if there are, and I do see some of that in your ordinance here online, some type of requirement that it has to be permitted and inspected and coordinated, obviously with the building official or their designee. But I do think that there was a larger conversation in the municipal league about odor with respect to production areas and some of the spacing requirements for crop production. They wanted those to be farther from residential districts. Angel Fire, the only thing that we could do, because we don't allow any crop productions, was looking at the mechanisms for odor control. And that's in talking with our fire chief, the recommendation that the council adopted.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
I have one follow-up, Madam Mayor.
Yes, Commissioner Powers.
Mr. Martinez, I don't know if anybody's looked at this, but has anybody looked into HEPA filters on the exhaust from these areas in order to filter out? Because you could dump this out into the atmosphere, and I don't know if that would be a good idea.
Yes, sir. We've actually partnered with some of the establishments that want to locate to Angel Fire to talk about our filtration systems, and making sure that that's coordinated with in our instance with the fire department, and the HEPA type filters to make sure that you really minimize any contaminants or pollution getting out, which could create a nuisance depending on what part of your zoning district you are. And so, yes, I don't think, honestly, it's uncommon for a lot of these establishments to program that into their building, because I believe this is a standard you will find in other states where this is allowed. So I was comforted to know, in talking with, we only have one retailer that's interested right now, but now I know I've got a second from this contact in California. But when we approached them to say, these are some of the conditions we're going to place, they said, well, we already do that in Colorado. So, and I'll just also point out, we did not allow this retail sales to be a by right option. We require it as a conditional use permit in our commercial districts, so that conditions like that can be placed at the discretion of our council. If our council says that in order for you to operate, we want additional standards for lighting, additional standards for security, additional standards for air filtration and odor control, we felt that it was appropriate as a conditional use to allow that at that location. And that might be another option, that you have another layer of control and regulation if you feel it is appropriate within certain zoning districts in your municipality.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, we're gonna go ahead and move forward to department reports. The police department. Chief, why don't you come on up to the podium so people can hear you and you can present the highlights of your report.
First of all, let me apologize for not being here at the beginning. I was in the Animal Control Board meeting. We did get a lot of stuff covered. Some of the highlights that we had, if you look on our overall statistics, you will see that dispatch activities have gone up since the last month, but you will see that most of them are due to self-initiation. It's not necessarily a call volume coming out of dispatch, but it's the officers out there, pulling vehicles over, finding stuff, checking buildings, that type of stuff. Traffic stops, as you can see, has increased. I don't use last year as much of a basis because of COVID, so we were all restricted, so I just, at this point, just going by the month, but as you can see, it has increased immensely. Most of that being from the traffic grant that we get from the state has now been released, and so the officers are out running traffic and at a much higher statistic than they were the month before. Offense reports pretty much stayed the same. Crash reports, you can see, have gone down. Arrests have gone up. Usually you get that once you see more traffic being done. Usually that's when your arrests tend to go up. And then we got the animals taking in 6. We had some issues with some vicious animals that we needed to deal with that we were holding on for quite some time, but we finally got that resolved. With that, department news is myself, Sergeant Watto, and Officer Sterling got our firearms qualifications done this month. Myself, Nina, and Sergeant Watto, we went through training for the Neuter program from the Law Enforcement Academy Board. What that is in past, we always had to submit everything to the state, to the Law Enforcement Academy Board. They are finally going where each agency now submits it via portal, and each agency becomes responsible to make sure that their officers are trained and that they're up to date on everything. And that doesn't kick off till May, I believe. Sergeant Lovato and I attended managing police records, and then we had the monthly staff meeting on January 28th, where myself and the officers and the animal control guys received tourniquet training and HB 93. HB 93 is required by every officer biannually to dealing with the mentally impaired. And that is the highlight of.
Thank you, Chief. Any questions from the commission?
I have just one question.
Yes, sir.
Is the close patrol line item the one you're talking about with more activity from the officers resulting in more?
Close patrols are more like, we'll take the airport area, I'll call it close patrol there, and it's when they enter the area, they'll say, I'm close patrol, and then when they leave, they'll say that they're wherever the area is that they've left. That's what those are.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Next is the court report. Statistics, next, town roads.
All right, good evening, everybody. Well, I'll get to follow Chief. Mine's pretty short and sweet. For maintaining public roads, we've graded approximately 32.5 miles of road, had 3 snow days, repaired or replaced 3 traffic signs, placed 2 tons of coal patch material, which is pothole material, and clean and maintain snow equipment.
And then you're also doing traffic counts.
Yes, ma'am.
How is that going?
Chief actually has the counts.
Okay. Okay.
Can you tell us which roads? I know that you're making progress on various roads. Can you tell us which roads?
So far, we've done Appaloosa, we've done the north end of Steeplechase, and we're doing the south end of Steeplechase now.
And we did church, right?
Yes.
We did.
Yep. Okay.
That was the first one we did.
Okay.
Thank you.
Right. Okay, and in May, we'll have the beginning, lost my notes. Okay, in May, The Frost Road will kick off, I believe it's the 9th. I just closed my notes on that. And it'll run pretty much all month to take care of Frost Road. And also I have in with Kay and Stephanie, 2 different bids to crack seal on Venus and Skylight. Or, Venus, East Venus and Skyline.
Okay. Thank you. Any other questions or comments?
How the roads hold up with the, recent snows that we had?
Good. It's good. It actually helps us. The moisture helps hold everything together and get it compacted back together. Right, they're looking pretty good. I noticed that we have some potholes opening up, so when we get a chance, we'll get out and we'll do some more pothole work. But other than that, as far as the gravel roads go, it actually helps us.
One more question. If, I know that you all worked diligently during that snowfall. Were you working, hours around the clock, or were you doing extra shifts? Because I know there were some long hours put in.
Typically what we do, if I can forecast it, I'll have the guys come in and we'll go in the shift. And we work 12 on, 12 off until we're done.
I appreciate that. Thank you very much for doing that.
Thank you. Next is a wastewater treatment plant report. Do we have anyone presenting? Okay, no? Okay. So I guess we can direct our comments and questions to the town manager for anything that she may want to follow up on for us, if there is anything. This is the fourth quarter report, right? And I did want to hear from you all, but my preference is that we move this to a monthly report so that we're not so far behind.
I agree with that.
Is there any objection to that, Commissioners? Monthly?
I think it's a good idea.
Yeah, we need to monitor this.
Yeah, there's a lot of numbers that go through, and I actually had to put this down halfway through it. My eyes were cross-eyed.
Good bedtime reading, right? It'll put you right to sleep.
It will do that.
Oh.
There's a tremendous amount of acronyms in here that, you're always wondering, what the heck did I just say? You know, so, and, along those lines, I believe that, just like you said, that if we get it, monthly on the report, since the plant itself is going under a tremendous amount of, remodeling, that would probably be a good way to, keep a good eye on the progress. So thank you for bringing that up.
Anything else on wastewater? I did, go ahead.
No.
No? Okay. I did want to mention that, we should have an IT, report, PowerPoint presentation without any sensitive information or anything, at the next meeting, next regular meeting, so that we can just present to the public and update you on some improvements that really need to be made as far as securing the town's data, cybersecurity, backups, antivirus, all of those things, that we plan to do. And for whatever is not in the budget for this fiscal year, this is just kind of laying the groundwork for the future as well. But if there are any high-risk areas, just wanted the public to know that we are addressing those right away. January 1st thing coming in, we do have everything backed up now. And so that's great, but moving forward, we do need to purchase some additional software and cloud solutions for the backups. And Jesus is doing a fantastic job just gathering all of that. Thank you so much. So we'll have him present just general next time. So if there isn't anything else, I think we just need a motion to accept the department reports.
Madam Chair.
Commissioner Naya?
Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to approve the, reports, department reports.
I'll second.
Okay. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, thank you. Next, we have the advisory board and committee reports, and this is something that I would like to see as a standing item, just in case the boards do have anything to report to us. And of course, as we go along with our appointments and get the boards established, this list will grow, obviously. But first up is Parks and Recreation. So your spokesperson, Ben, come on up.
Yes, good evening, everyone. I'm Ben Wilbank, serving as the chair for the Parks and Recreation Advisory Committee. Just want to say first, we're all extremely excited to be able to serve. I think we have a good mix of some of us that have been around for a while in previous administrations, and then some new people as well. And we have a few items we kind of wanted to get going. We have met twice in the last 3 weeks to try to dig through all the background information and just get things going. One of the things we wanted to do was to see if we could modify the current ordinance, which is calling for 5 members and 1 alternate, to go to 7 members. No alternates, just 7 members. And we wanted to see if we could appoint Allison Apple, who is here, to the committee. Another thing we wanted to do is, right now the ordinances states that we are supposed to meet quarterly, and we don't feel that that is anywhere near enough to tackle all the many sites we have and projects going on and just things that we could be doing. So we want to meet at least once a month. Like I said, right now we're kind of meeting twice a month just to try to catch up on everything, since it's been down for about 2 years. We're kind of just trying to get a handle on everything, so we're meeting twice a month right now. On that note, we are meeting next Tuesday, same time, so anyone who's wanting to come and attend, they're open to the public. Like I said, at 6:30 Tuesday. The main thing we've been doing, like I mentioned, is digging through all the old files from the 2 previous administrators, trying to go through all the old business that was done and what they were trying to work on. And most of that digging has been done by K.R. Scott and Ralph Hill, so thanks to them for all the efforts they've been putting in there, a lot of extra work they've been doing, just volunteering. Going through a lot of the old things and trying to get a handle on where all the parks are at right now, all the open spaces, what they look like, what needs to be done, what was supposed to have been done and not done, and just kind of where everything falls. We spent a lot of time recently on digging through this Echo Ridge, Section 34, trying to figure out what was in the plan of development, what was done, and what is lagging, kind of where we need to go with that. So we're starting to get a handle on those things, as well as the other various parks around here. Are there any questions this time?
Do you hold your meetings here in
Yes, we have been in here. Both times we've met, and like I said, right now we're just trying to meet on the Tuesdays. You guys are not meeting at that same time at 6:30, just so for public and whoever else, it's kind of just a routine that hopefully they can get into, so that if people want to come and hear what we're talking about and provide comment, there's a forum for that.
That's great. Commissioners, comments, questions?
Great job. It's just awesome to see you guys stepping up and really doing something that the town has needed for a while.
Yeah, we're all excited about it, and we're ready to get moving. So awesome, we're eager.
One question on your the increase of frequency of meetings, do you want to make this a permanent or just until everything gets caught
So
up?
we want to make the monthly a permanent. Right now it's quarterly, that's not enough. So we want to do the monthly a permanent. The bi-weekly that we've been doing, the bi-monthly that we've been doing is more interim, just to try to get a handle on everything so that we're not, digging up old stuff for the next 6 months and we're ready to move forward and, get everybody up to speed on anything that's going on. So that's more of a temporary thing, and the once a month would be ongoing.
Okay, great, thank you.
I just want to say thanks for stepping up, and I know the volunteerism has been really great to see, and we want to access the collective resources of the town and the wisdom of the people here. Parks and Rec, as you say, has been dormant for years, so we've heard from the public a lot that that's one of the priorities is trails. The Echo Ridge project, I know, fell through the cracks, and you're working hard to resurrect that, and I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yeah, it really does seem like, the town has come to life. There's so much life here now, so much activity and so many things being accomplished. Thank you all so much. Commissioner Nyan.
Yeah, Madam Mayor, under the Echo Ridge, section, on the bullet point you have here, town of Edgewood needs to be annexed. Isn't that already annexed in the town, or is it not?
So,
Is it because it's in Torrance County?
No, it's in Santa Fe.
It's in Santa Fe.
Thank you very much.
I think there is a huge benefit to expand it as well, to expand your 5 and 1 to 7 members.
yeah, our idea is the more brains and eyes and help we have, the better, so I don't see a downside to it.
I don't either.
Thanks so much, Ben.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Animal control. Mr. Reams, you want to come up? Mike?
Good evening, Commissioners. We had our first meeting of the advisory board today, prior to your meeting. We've talked about many subjects, and one of the things is they appointed me as the chairman of the advisory board, which I'll gladly do. We talked about many subjects. Mayor Jaramillo and Chief Sanchez attended the meeting. We've discussed a lot of different options. One is the Spay Neuter clinic, which was sponsored a couple of years ago with a $5,000 grant, and that was for citizens in the community for free spay and neuter. The only thing the citizens had to do, as required by the veterinarians, was to have their animal vaccinated for rabies. So it helps twofold in the sense that we're spaying and neutering, plus we're getting more animals vaccinated for rabies, which is a good thing. Also, we would encourage people to do their licensing at that time, so we can get more people with license with the town. One of the other subjects was the Wolfstock event. We're looking into that about grant money, and we've tentatively set a date for September 24th. This is at the multi-purpose field. That's always been a good event. We usually would get 500 or 600 people attending. We have a lot of animal rescue groups, a lot of adoptions, a shot clinic, and the community really liked doing the event. We've done that for about 12 or 13 years since we first started with that. The next issue is the Cattery Cages. I provided Mayor Jaramillo and Chief Sanchez the quotes that I've received. It is a big investment, but it's something that has to be done. There are some problems with the financing due to how the companies want a deposit made, and Mayor Jaramillo is looking into the possible options of how we can possibly get around that because of the restrictions on the town. The last item would be if you consider, how many members you would like on the advisory board, probably, 7 would be absolute maximum. Or have, 2 alternates. That would really be your decision as to how to structure that. We also plan to have, meetings every month on the second, commission meeting prior to the commission meeting at 5:30. Of course, we'll ask the public to attend if they'd like, so they can hear what we're doing. But each one of us is working on a different aspect of projects. So, we should have a lot more information to report to you when we, convene the next time. So, if you have any questions or anything.
I think I have one question. It's a substantial investment for those cages, but they're in pretty poor state of repair, I understand.
Yes, originally those were kitchen cabinets that were converted into cat cages. It's particle board with laminate on it, and they are thoroughly worn out. In addition to that, the New Mexico Veterinary Board has set shelter standards that does not allow the use of wood in a shelter anymore to contain animals. So that's something that has been needed to be replaced since 2017. Right now, there's no cats in the cattery at this time, but come springtime, we'll probably be looking at a substantial number coming through the shelter. This is a long-term investment. The cages would probably last 20 years or more. And that would, they also have the ability to be on casters. They can be moved around. So if we had an adoption event, we could roll them into the lobby or the adoption room itself, and that would promote the adoption of the felines.
Sounds like a good idea. One of the things I've heard from the public a lot is about a problem with barking dogs.
Yes, we were going to start looking at the town ordinance. When it was written last time, there were some changes made by different attorneys that took a lot of the solutions out and created loopholes. The barking dog, you have to be there for 1 hour of continuous barking or 2 hours of intermittent barking. And I don't know what intermittent barking really is. But we were maybe considering something like the purchase of sound meters, so we could quantify the loudness of the animals. And then also, if they set limits on the time of day, if it's disturbing the peace. So we're looking for verbiage on that to try and clean that up. And there's a couple other passages within the ordinance that also need to be changed, because it creates loopholes for the court and kind of backs things up. And the other side of that too is being able to give good answers to the community as far as solutions.
Great. I appreciate you looking into that. I've heard a lot about it. And,
yeah, that was always a problem. One of the other problems that is frequent is direct chaining of animals. In the ordinance, there is a passage about a trolley system, which is what was approved. And so I think getting the word out to the public or for the people who are direct chaining to switch to a trolley system. The best containment would be the fenced yard, but people are renting, they don't have funds to fence an entire yard in. So, but all these things we're going to look at, work with Chief Sanchez as far as his input on what we're proposing. But when we did last time, we had to have public meetings, a lot of discussion. Things changed over time, but we managed to get a final draft of it. And like I said, the attorneys began to change things, which took the meat out of a lot of the passages.
can I ask, do you know when those changes were made relatively? I'm just curious.
I believe that was in 2017. I believe that's the latest version of the ordinance. There's been 3 versions over the years, from starting in 2004.
Okay, thank you very much.
Any other comments or questions?
No.
Okay, thank you, Mike.
Thank
I
you.
appreciate it.
Good evening.
Thank you.
Okay, next, matters from the mayor. I wanted to talk a little bit about Municipal Day and, just let the public know that that was a very big success for us, going up to Santa Fe, you know, to the meetings with the Municipal League there. They do this every year, for the legislative session. And it just gives the elected officials the opportunity to kind of lobby, let the legislators know what's important to the municipalities and certainly for the town of Edgewood. We also had our town manager there and it was very successful, I believe, with, kind of splitting up and talking to the different legislators. So great work. And, we don't know, well, we know the amounts that have been proposed by our legislators, a pretty significant amount, for water treatment, quality facility, and then also trails. And so those two areas were the focus, and there's always a chance, of course, that the governor could veto something or something doesn't go through, so we won't make any announcements yet. But that information will be forthcoming and looks very, very positive. Well worth the day and a half to be up there. Legislative update, as far as that goes, this is a 30-day session. There will probably be special session coming up where more items will be addressed. But there's always a flurry of bills and activity going on. One of the main ones that I did want to mention to the public was there was with the taxes putting a moratorium on GRT to where the municipalities wouldn't have the local control to do anything with their gross receipts taxes. And so the Municipal League and the mayors let the legislators know that that wasn't something that they appreciated, having their local control taken away. Whether they wanted to raise taxes or not, it's something that shouldn't be taken by the state. It's something, local control is something we need to protect very fiercely. So that happened, and I think that they were responsive. And just been keeping in touch, you know, with the legislative session and the Municipal League. And so we'll see what comes from that, from all of that, because many of the bills do end up impacting us. Water quality treatment facility, I mentioned that already. This is something that I'm just really super excited about for the town. Something that I think could impact everyone's daily lives, right? If our water was treated and much softer. And so it's something that I'll be researching further, and hopefully we do have, like I said earlier, the funding coming for that to get that going. I'll defer on the Edgewood update to Commissioner Powers in his section. That actually should have gone under him. And then I wanted to mention about board docs to let everybody know to expect this coming up, an e-environment for our meetings. And this is something that we will look into cost and everything on the board docs. But for our meetings, we want to be able to have everything in the packets and everything in an e-environment so that it's not all on paper, and should help us with our motions and voting and everything. So that will be coming soon. The Santa Fe Film and Media Studios. So we received a notification that Santa Fe County is going to be issuing $16 million in IRBs, which is industrial revenue bonds, for expansion and upgrades to Santa Fe studios. So the $16 million in bonds, really, that is something that encourages businesses to expand or come to certain areas. So this is for Santa Fe County. And it says for use by La Luz Holdings, LLC, and Santa Fe Film and Media Studios, Inc., or their assignees. And so these bonds will be issued and will be considered by the county on or after February 8th. I haven't heard anything since then about it, but just so that the public knows about that, for the county, that's what they plan to issue. And it may, which I think I'll have, Stephanie reach out to the county on this, but it could, with tax abatements, impact the town's GRT. So we just need to ask them exactly how much that could impact us. And usually there's some small portion of that, because it is a tax break to them, that could decrease our taxes. Probably not, like I said, significantly, but there's that. And
Madam Mayor?
yes,
Didn't along that line, didn't it say, also that they were going to do training for the people who wanted to be actors or work in the, sorry about that.
oh, that's much better.
I thought I had read somewhere in that they were going to also do, training for people that are interested in the film industries, such as acting, stage lighting, and, you know, along those lines. Was that part of that too?
Not part of this, because the IRBs usually relate to, you know, capital things. So it says renovation, construction, reconstruction, installation of equipment, equipping of upgrades to existing facilities, and acquisition, construction, and equipping of an expansion of a film studio located at 1 Santa Fe Studios Road. But the county may be funding some kind of program. I'm not sure. I haven't heard that.
Yeah, I thought I had read that, and it was a news release from Santa Fe County, so I'll have to follow up on that one.
Okay. Yeah. I think that's all I have. And Commissioner Powers, could you also address the sound system upgrades, the plans for that, along with the Edgewood update on the website?
Okay. So I'll start with the update on the website. We've started a new podcast series on the town website. We did the first one, Mayor and I did. It's part of the public outreach. We're not doing the low bar in terms of transparency and just what we have to do to meet the state statutes regarding openness and transparency. So it's not everybody can attend these meetings. I appreciate everybody who does come and all those that are watching the live stream. But this is a way of giving kind of a nutshell of what's going on in town, what we're doing, why we're doing it. So it also allows for more feedback from the public if they are more well-informed about what we're doing. So those will be a regular event, and it's the Edgewood Town Update. It's on our website. You can see it there. The camera updates that you mentioned, the sound system, this has been a kind of a pet peeve of mine about the cumbersome nature of the way that we do these meetings with the technology that we've got. I know Jesus has to swing the camera so that people can be seen on the podium when they're speaking. So we're looking into some more cameras that will be dedicated. We can cut to the podium, we can cut to the commission, we can cut to the staff, which is invisible as far as the public knows, because you can't swing that camera around.
They probably want to remain invisible.
So, and then the sound system itself, the sound quality is relatively poor, so we're working on that. Microphones would be a big improvement. We're looking into maybe lapel mics, because when we turn our heads to talk to each other, sometimes we lose the microphone. And so we're going to test out the lavaliers, I guess they call them, which are like a boom mic that you wear, but also lapel cameras, and then we'll figure out what everybody likes or what works best. The legislative update that you gave, or the municipal day, that was a really productive session. And one of the things that I learned that I didn't know is that the legislature is not handling the majority of the money, infrastructure money that's coming. It appears that the governor has kind of taken control of that and will be handing it out in a process that I don't really understand yet, but former Mayor Marty Chavez is kind of the funnel through which all that's going to go. So we have put our hat in the ring there, and we're staying in touch with that process, because a lot of the funding will come through that office. Regarding the sewer plant, that's been a continual problem. The sewer plant has been out of NMED compliance sometimes for years. There is the construction project to do the repairs on it, but we also, in doing a tour, we did a tour with, Larry Hall, who's the operator. We had, some other people there that had some expertise. And in troubleshooting and brainstorming ideas, we're gonna do some data collection. The hardness of the water seems to be a problem, which water quality would also help the sewer plant if we were able to soften the water. But also, we're gonna be doing some testing to see, comparing the water going into the sewer plant with the drinking water here. Because a lot of the businesses have reverse osmosis systems, and that's great because it softens the water for them, it takes the minerals out. But then there's this really super concentrated mineral waste stream that goes right into our sewers and then goes right to the plant. So we're gonna collect some data and see if we can solve that problem, maybe other avenues as well. There's also currently kind of a big problem in that there's only one blower that's operated. The sewer plant process tanks have to be aerated, and it takes these large blowers to do it to keep the waste being processed. And one of those blowers is down, so we really don't have any redundancy right now. It's kind of a very high priority, and they're working on that diligently, because if that blower goes down, then we don't have a waste treatment facility, it's not processing. And we'll be hauling sewage out at the rate of 35,000 gallons a day. So that's kind of a high priority. I'm really, like I said, the volunteerism has been terrific, the enthusiasm. It's wonderful to see the Parks and Rec being resurrected after being down for a couple of years. It's a high priority for a lot of citizens, Parks and Rec, the trails, Echo Ridge Park. So I appreciate that. And it's not just the Parks and Rec, it's been in every single committee. We've had a lot of enthusiasm, and it's exciting to see that. And I really believe in accessing the collective skills and experience and wisdom of the town. It's a wonderful resource. I also wanted to report that I attended the Mr. Cog board meeting, which Mr. Cog handles a lot of issues related to regional issues, and the members right now that get to vote are one county commissioner from each county, and then a representative from the municipalities. There was a kind of a disturbing change in a regulation that was put forth that would absolutely take away our local voice in the municipalities. So the only people that would be able to vote on the board would be one county commissioner from each county. So we would have to, all the cities in the county would have to go lobby that one commissioner. And, we're so different from the city of Santa Fe, I think our voice would get drowned out. And we all, the commission has really expressed a strong commitment to local control, because that way what we do in our town and what Mr. Cog does can reflect the values of the people that live here and what we want to see for our future with the town. So we propose that there be a resolution and that the cities really got on board and to try to eliminate this new regulation. It's very destructive to the voice of the municipalities, including our own. So they're going to do that and put that resolution forth at the next meeting, and then hopefully that regulation will not go into effect. I think it's scheduled to go into effect in July right now. The one thing, this is another pet peeve of mine, but you all see this ledger right here, and it gives this sense of separation from the people, and it doesn't really reflect the way the openness that we want to convey. So I'm advocating that we take this ledger out. I think we have somebody now on board that can do that. And I just want to check the audience. How many people get that kind of sense of separation from my show of hands? Okay.
How about if we painted how about if we just painted a mural on the bottom of that?
Okay. So that's all I have. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. All right, Commissioner United.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I was going to talk a little bit about the wastewater treatment plant also, but I thank you, Jerry, for filling them in on the walkthrough and stuff that we went through the other day, and it was kind of eerie walking through the plant, just hearing it grunting as it tried to work. It was in sad shape, and so anyhow, as we're going through the plant, we just keep noticing items that are disconnected, not in use, because it's so far outdated, that the engineers that were walking through with us, BHI, also RMCI, and of course Larry Hall, the engineer that works for us. What is it, Mike Garcia? He was there too, and the gentleman was very helpful. I appreciated him with his knowledge that he had there for us. We did do some communication with the State Department about trying to get the VMP or VFD fans going back online, and the State Department was very, very helpful with Kay and myself in trying to get the change orders approved, but I've got to say they were very, very helpful, and they did it. So as Jerry, I didn't get to tell Jerry yet, but they started working on it today.
Right.
So that was an item that is extremely valuable to the town. Another item that I have is Edgewood 7 Trails. We had a meeting the other day with Parks and Rec. Ben was there, Ralph Hill, myself, Kay, Ray Smith of SMA, Ray Archuleta from the New Mexico Department of Transportation, Manuelito Martinez, and Sharon Cruz. And again, the State Department, they know the issues that the town of Edgewood has been going through, and they've been kind of sitting back not sitting back, they've actually been trying to communicate with the prior administration and just sometimes didn't seem to get anywhere. So they were very pleased to know that we were proactive in trying to get everything done into this town, just like we ran for the position, and we told you what we were going to do, and we are working diligent on a lot of these issues. But anyhow, on Edgewood 7, they are very excited to see that these trails do want to get placed and put in. So they're working with us, again, diligently. So I appreciate them for what they're doing. Moriarty Edgewood School District. We had Audrey and myself and Kay were in a meeting with the board president, the superintendent, and I believe the other one was the secretary of the board?
The vice president.
Vice president. And we talked about long-term planning with the town and with this particular location, the Edgewood Elementary campus. And part of the problem that we were having is trying to figure out the maintenance of the building, and trying to find the lease in order to figure out what it is that the town of Edgewood is responsible for. Well, we've got that taken care of, and now we know what it is that we are responsible for and what they are responsible for. And I believe that they're willing to talk to us. How far we get is another question, but the gates are open and the horses are out. So we are communicating. And if Audrey would like to touch a little bit more on that, she was in the meeting. She's welcome to.
Thank you, Commissioner. Yeah, I can add a couple of points. the superintendent, did give us, through the town manager, written approval for the changes that small changes that we would like to make, such as adding the flagpole, adding some lighting to the parking lot. And, of course, we determined that repairs and maintenance of things like sinks and toilets and, those types of things, after all, were our responsibility. So the poor library has been waiting for 4 years for, like, plugged up toilets or something. So now Stephanie's already working on getting that resolved, so hallelujah. And then, so, with that kind of clarified, that helps us to be able to move forward and, approval for the small things we want to do. There's also the issue that has risen up of the building to the south. And, for that, my strong encouragement to the board was to make sure that they are putting these items on their agendas, having public comment, having these, public feedback on what the residents and the members of the school district may want or not want for the future of this campus and with that building. And so hopefully they do that. As it stands right now, I believe the superintendent has asked the preschool, the Smarty Pants preschool, to find another location, because they do plan on tearing that building down at this point in time. Well, I don't mean that's their plan at this point in time, not that they're going to tear it down right now. And one of the factors that changed in that decision was that the state now has a bucket of money, so to speak, for school districts throughout the state that have some of the older buildings that need to be torn down. That pot of money is there that the district could use to do that for the south building here. And so that the district wouldn't have to use capital or operational money on their own. I do know from school districts, just being on the board there for 8 years, that they have very, very little money to work with. It's about 90% of their budget goes to salaries for teachers and, for the kiddos. So when they have an opportunity like this, I think that's why it kind of came to the forefront that, hey, there's this money here, we need to kind of take advantage of it while we can. And they did mention, the vision of someday when enrollment increases of building a new Edgewood Elementary building there. The question becomes that Commissioner Nye and I were asking is, what about in the meantime? We don't know when. I mean, that could be 10 years off, 5 years off. So couldn't the building, the gym and everything be used in the interim time period? And so the way I understand it right now is that they are pretty set on tearing down that building. I just, like I said, I encourage the board members to bring it to a public meeting for a public decision to get feedback. And if they do that, then of course I would encourage you all to express your opinions on that. We also did address the issue of their plans to keep this land and this building here, or would they even consider, turning it over to the town? And that was pretty much a hard no, like over our dead bodies. But we do have a good relationship with them as far as the lease goes, and we want increased communication, of course. And so I guess that's what I have to add.
Well, I did take $1 with me, but they wouldn't take it.
That's right. He said, I have $1 right here in my pocket. Not that we could have made that decision anyway, but it was just kind of interesting. So, yeah. Anything else, Commissioner Anaya?
No, that's it, thank you.
All right, Commissioner Brennan.
I want to thank everybody that's been volunteering their time with these communities, committees, and getting a lot of work done. And as I was reading through a lot of what's been going on, what we've been doing, I've been seeing things from the past, seeing things that we're doing in the present, and our plans for the future. Then I started thinking that at one time, I remember that they were talking, it was being talked about a motto or a saying for Edgewood. And I don't think anything ever came that did it. I never heard it, so
No, I don't think that it has been changed.
Well, I would like to propose that we discuss bringing that back and getting inputs for it. And I like to throw the first possible input out there, and it would be Edgewood, where the past, the present, and the future live in harmony. That's what I see going on right here. We've got people that have been out in Edgewood for a long, long time. We've got people that have been here a shorter period of time. We've got people that are just coming in or planning to come here. Everybody's starting to work together, and that thought just resonated within me, and I thought I would just share that with everybody.
Thank you. Commissioner Donner, I know you have a motto.
Yeah.
You share it.
All right. Yeah, I guess I can do that. My vision for Edgewood, and I share this a lot with the other commissioners as well, we are the hub of the East Mountains. So I think that should be our motto. Edgewood, the hub of the East Mountains. We can have all the services, we can have everything that the people in this region need without having to go into Albuquerque to get it. So, yeah.
Thanks for sharing.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, putting me on the spot.
Sorry. You could have said no.
No, it's all right. I just want to thank everybody for their incredible support, and value criticism, Mr. Seegers. That ordinance for the Economic Development Committee was, I had never done before. So the feedback and the guidance I've gotten from people in this room has been incredible, and I really, really just appreciate every single one of you. So thank you.
Okay, one more item I forgot to mention on the school district, and I have a little schematic design. I'll leave up here in the break. We're going to take a quick comfort break for 5 minutes or so here. But this is something that they're proposing, a sports complex at Moriarty High School. And so I don't know that they have the funding for this yet, but the schematic design is here if anyone would like to look at it. So that is being proposed as well. So you guys ready for a break? All right. We'll take 5 or 10. Okay. We are gonna call this meeting back into order at 8:18. And next on our agenda, we have matters from the interim clerk treasurer. Anything else other than the financial report? Do you wanted to address?
I forgot what it was. I didn't write it down. I didn't write it down. I forgot. But actually, I'm going to defer to our town manager for the financial report tonight.
Okay, and we can circle back if you think of it.
Do you have any questions about the financial report?
Commissioners, any questions? I did know our GRT did go down significantly. So we saw that probably that Walmart drop. From 577,000 in December to 485. And so we'll have to see what February does. But any questions for Kay or Stephanie? Sure?
I bombard her with questions every day, so.
I know.
I did review of the numbers with our bookkeeper, and I was very satisfied with all the expenditures.
Okay.
Good. Yeah, I feel like every now and then I pull out my auditor hat, right, and then I look at things as I need to. So, well, I'll entertain a motion to approve the financial report then for January 2022.
Madam Mayor, I make a motion to approve the financials for January of 2022.
I'll second.
Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that passes. Matters from the planning and zoning manager. Brad Hill, please come up.
Mayor, Commissioners, I just want to give a brief update before we get into the agenda item. I've been on the job about 3 weeks now. I think I can comfortably report that we're making real progress. I can indicate, for example, the business registrations should all be going out by the end of the month. It's been a challenging task. Just to give you an example with the business registrations, all the files were the 300 files that we have for business registrations, current and previous, were just randomly put in a filing cabinet. We now have them alphabetized, so if we want to find a file, we can do it with some reasonable process rather than just going through an entire filing cabinet randomly. So those are the kinds of steps that we're taking. I think we've got a sense now of where things are. We have a sense of what needs to be done immediately, short term, what needs to be done interim and long term. So I really feel like we're making some good progress, and I would like to come forward maybe at the next council meeting with a more detailed report of what we've done, so you have a sense of what actually has crossed our desk and has gone back out. So I think that's something we'll be doing here at the next meeting if you're agreeable. So tonight, what's on the agenda is, as you know, we had public hearings on the January 5th meeting. That's a quasi-judicial process, so you as the judicial body and acting as a judicial body rendered a decision. You rendered decisions at that meeting, and what we come to today is your ruling. So look at this as being your official ruling on those decisions that were made at that meeting. And so we identify that as being the findings of fact and conclusions of law. So this is a standard legal document. This is to document the action that you took at that meeting and why you took that action and what the significance of that action is for the record. So, the first item, that you heard was basically Smith Engineering acting as representative for the town of Edgewood requesting a grading and drainage variance. So the findings of fact are very basic. We determined that the property is indeed in the town, that we have authority over the variance, who testified at the hearing, and in your conclusions of law, basically you determined that there would not be detrimental aspects to approving a variance, and you made the conclusion that that variance should be herein submitted as rendered. So it is hereby ordered, is the term that you are using tonight. So I would ask you to make a motion and any discussion that you would have, and then you can choose to adopt this findings of fact and conclusion of law.
Thank you. Do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion that we accept the findings of fact and conclusions of law regarding the Smith Engineering Company request for a variance for Appaloosa Lane.
I second.
Any discussion? We'll do this on a roll call vote. Commissioner Anaya?
Aye.
Commissioner Brennan?
Aye.
Commissioner Donner?
Aye.
Commissioner Powers?
Aye.
And I vote aye.
Thank you. Then the other item that I have for you tonight is the matter of Michael T. Flattery. And this was a lot line adjustment, so it's the same thing. We determined that the property was indeed in the town limits. It's properly zoned. The application was properly filled out and reviewed. You do have the right to engage in this type of activity under town ordinance. And so you heard the matter, and your conclusion of law is that it's not detrimental to the health and well-being of the town of Edgewood, and you're moving this forward as a conclusion of law.
Motion?
I'll make a motion that we accept the findings of fact and conclusions of law regarding the Michael T. Flattery application for lot line adjustment.
I second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion?
Madam Chair.
Commissioner Anaya, speak into your mic, please.
So we would need the lapel mic.
Yeah, really. On the Flatley case, wasn't that heard by Commissioner Powers? Was he chairing that one?
No,
No.
this was the same January 5th meeting.
So he, and Tammy also, you did, Audrey?
I did.
Okay, just want to make sure.
Yeah, no,
Okay.
the mayor chaired that meeting.
Okay.
Anything else? Okay, we'll do a roll call vote. Commissioner Donner?
Aye.
Commissioner Brennan?
Aye.
Commissioner Powers?
Aye.
Commissioner Anaya?
Aye.
And I vote aye.
And then, the town manager will present the last item due to potential conflict of interest.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Do you have any questions regarding what we're doing at planning and zoning? If you do, I will bring a report to the next commission.
Just one question. I understand you're looking into digitizing the records.
Yes. So the first thing we determined was whether we need a database or whether it could be done with a spreadsheet. I think the development review can be done on a spreadsheet because it's not that extensive, and it probably would be adequate for a number of years. The business license registration, on the other hand, probably should be put into a database. So we're looking at a simple database or using the existing one in the town if we can modify it in some way to be more effective. We have found some people come in not sure if they're, when they, if they're delinquent, if there's we have no way of really tracking it at this time. So we just need to be able to provide that service to the business community.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, next matters from the interim town manager, Davis.
Yes, ma'am. Finding of facts and conclusions of law of the Town of Edgewood Commission, whereas a request by the owner, Tammy Ducamato,
for preliminary plat subdivision approval of 2 lots into 8 tracts, 4 and 5, north half, south half, section 4, township 10, range 7 east, in the northeast quarter of south, 5, section 5, township 10, range 7 east of 19.9 acres each, also known as 251 Horton Road and 267 Horton Road, town of Edgewood, Santa Fe County, New Mexico. The public hearing was conducted January 5th for said subdivision request, and the commission heard from all interested persons present as to why the subdivision should or should not be granted. The majority of the commission voted for the motion to grant the subdivision request. Therefore, the commission enters the following findings of fact and conclusions of law. The platted property is within the limits of the town of Edgewood and is located west of Horton Road in Township 10, Range 7 East. The subdivision request does not conflict with any provisions of the 2002-1 Grading and Drainage Ordinance, the 2019-04 Subdivision Ordinance, the 2019-03 Zoning Ordinance, or the 2008 Town of Edgewood Comprehensive Plan. The platted property is within the limits of the Town of Edgewood and is located west of Horton Road in Township 10 North, Range 7 East. The subdivision request does not conflict with any provisions. I'm repeating. The requested subdivision is not detrimental to health, safety, and general public welfare. The following persons testified at the public hearing: Tim Oden, agent for the property owner, and Tammy Lucamato and Brad Hill as owner, and Peter Newstead, Meredith Conant, Linda Burke, Rita Loy Simmons, and John Abrams as affected parties, and Tim Dvorak as Town of Edgewood Planning and Zoning Manager. The parcel is 19.9 acres with relatively flat topography, and adjoining parcels mixed in sizes ranging from 5 acres to 40+ acres of developed and undeveloped land. The subject parcel is served by the Entrenosa Water Co-op. The subdivision will comply with the Santa Fe Fire Department requirements for fire flow. The subdivision roads will be brought up to the requirements of the Town of Edgewood subdivision regulations. The developer is committed to complying with all the applicable Town of Edgewood regulations in all construction activities. The conclusions of law. The Town of Edgewood has jurisdiction over the proposed preliminary plat subdivision. It was approved in accordance with applicable town ordinances. The proposed subdivision bears a substantial relationship and will not be detrimental to the public health, safety, or welfare. Whereof the request of Tammy to come out though and subdivide it is granted. It is so ordered. Thank you.
Thank you, Manager Davis. I will make a motion to accept the findings of fact and conclusion of law in the matter of Tammy Lucadamo preliminary plat subdivision.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Any discussion, questions, comments? Okay, we'll do roll call vote. Mayor Pro Tem Powers.
Aye.
I vote aye. Commissioner Anaya.
Aye.
Commissioner Donner.
Aye.
Commissioner Brennan.
Aye.
Okay. Congratulations. Next, we have calling for various public hearings for various ordinances. Oh,
may I add some things for the manager?
Yes, thank you.
I was given the task of doing research for the flagpoles in front of the building, and we found a flagpole that will probably meet our criteria, that it can withstand 100 miles per hour wind, and it comes into either 25-foot or 30-foot section, and with a 30-foot section flagpole, it will be approximately $269 for the flagpole with the solar light, and then $269, and then it will cost additional
probably about 3 bags of concrete, 18 inches wide and 18 inches deep hole to, set the flagpole in. And, so it will be, twice the $270 plus the concrete. And, if you approve it, we will order it and have it installed hopefully within a month.
Okay, great. We have that as action a little bit further down, so
Yes,
we'll
ma'am.
approve it then.
And I'd like to make an announcement that we did offer and was accepted to Joshua Reyes to be our new building maintenance supervisor. And he is with the road department as a heavy equipment operator. And he wanted to give them, that department, 2-week notice. And so within 2 weeks, he will start working for us. And he said he will help set the flagpoles.
All right, fantastic.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Animal Control Advisory Board appointment. I make a motion to appoint Linda Sparling to the Animal Control Advisory Board.
I second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded, and Linda, would you like to come up? She was. She did, okay. Okay. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay. Next, appointment of temporary employee for administrative assistant. I would like to make a motion to appoint Sylvia Walter, who is with us here, I see in the room.
I second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? Would you mind coming up to the podium? And former Mayor Pro Tem Chuck Ring, did you make this podium? Did you make that podium?
Yes, it did. I'm sorry, I just couldn't hear you.
That's okay.
But I did, yeah.
It's great. It's special. So sorry, little rabbit trail there.
Squirrel.
Okay. Why don't you tell the commission a little bit about yourself?
Well, on the personal side, I am a native New Mexican, born and raised in Santa Fe, and then I've been living in Sandia Park for the last 28 years. I enjoy fishing, camping, I have a miniature dachshund I adore, and hiking. On the professional side, I started my career with the Village of T. Harris and worked there as the deputy clerk. Had the privilege of working with your interim clerk treasurer, Stephanie Muller, who taught me a great deal. From there, I ended up going to Sandia National Laboratories. I was an executive assistant for the general counsel and corporate secretary for 9 years. And after that, I was executive assistant for 2 associate lab directors in the science and technology division. I retired in August of 2019, and here I am now. Right. Well, thank you so much for being here. I just wanted to let the commissioners know that the personnel policy does allow for the mayor to appoint temporary employees not to exceed 6 months.
Awesome.
Yeah.
It's interesting how so many of us have retired or getting close to retired and getting right back into it.
And I am very thankful, very thankful.
Awesome. Yeah, I know we really need some administrative help, and that Kay and Stephanie are working really hard. All the commissioners are working really hard, so I really appreciate you coming forward and coming out of retirement. I know what a sacrifice that is.
Yeah. He left his boat.
Yeah.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, welcome. Thank you. Okay, now we get to the section on calling for various ordinances for public hearing. And I just wanted to preface this by saying the purpose of adding these into the packet is not that it's the, final proposed draft for the public hearing or anything, but just so that the public, had the chance and the commissioners as well to speak about this in an open meeting and suggest any changes, which I've already heard quite a few this evening. Thank you so much for those of you who, provided feedback already. And, so I guess we'll just take the first one here on the procurement ordinance. Now, this came from a complete revamp in 2018. And so I made a few changes that I knew the commission probably wanted, and one that was already existing that we may want to decrease the threshold. But I did want to just open it up right now for any feedback, and I can make changes, and then we will have an ordinance to for the public hearing. And also wanted to mention that they have to be posted for a minimum of 14 days, right? Or 14.
Technical difficulties.
Yeah, trying to get the mic to work.
Yes, Mayor, it has to be posted at least 2 weeks prior to the next meeting.
Okay.
And in which you would call for public hearing by motion, correct?
Right. So we will do that. And so the soonest I think that we could hear this for the first reading would be the 15th.
Correct.
So for March 15th is when we'll hear these if the commission does end up calling for these. So any comments on this ordinance on procurement?
I would have a comment.
Sure.
I think Mr. Seeger's comments were really well taken. I think this ordinance was revamped under the previous administration, and it kind of concentrated the responsibility to the clerk or the CPO, the Certified Purchasing Officer, which I agree that there should be political accountability. It should be more transparent to the public so they know what it is that we're approving and spending our money on. I think that this revamp ought to include more of that as well. You mentioned the lowering of the threshold so that the decision-making is really out in the public and accepted in the public meeting.
Okay, so in looking at the ordinance, there's a lot of standard language here. On page 3, I like Mr. Seeger's recommendation to change the word minimize for corruption and maybe put prevent, right? That would be good, to prevent corruption. And then either change or eliminate the word political. It's the actual definition probably originally wasn't so negative, but now you say the word political or politics or politician and it's like, ooh, terrible. So we may need to either strike that or find another word.
How about public benefits?
There you go. Public sounds good. Any objections to that?
Nope, still begins with a P, so.
Okay, are you guys okay with prevent instead of minimize? Okay. On page 4, this is where the thresholds are discussed. So we have small purchases that can be handled just, being paid, extremely small purchases. Then you have from $3,000.01 up, you do have to issue a purchase order and make a reasonable effort to obtain 3 oral or written quotes. And what I've seen in practice is this allows some flexibility for me making phone calls. And I know a lot of times for myself, if a municipality will call me and say, what's your bid on our audit or quote for an audit? And if I know right off, or if it's for a small acequia or some, small entities, I'll be able to just tell them over the phone. But if they ask me for a written quote, well, that might actually take me a few days, right? By the time I get back and write the email and give them the bios and everything that they want. So, but I did hear, Mr. Seeger's comment also to, maybe just eliminate oral quotes and have something written, because vendors should be able to send you an email or something like that. So, what do you guys think about that aspect of oral quotes?
Having worked with this, within the confines of this, I know it gives some flexibility to the town manager, and when we were trying to get up and rolling, we needed laptops, we needed all kinds of things. I kind of am okay with that up to 3,000, because it gives us the ability to act quickly, when we need it in that regard. I think the limits on the RFP should definitely be, reduced. But on this one, that's my comment, is it has helped us to get things done quickly, and they're such small purchases that I think it's okay to go with the oral quotes. That's just my input.
Okay, so, and that is, you're saying up to 3,000 you're okay with. What about right now, it's, you know, oral or written for 3,000 to 20,000? What do you guys think about that?
I think it should be written.
Now, going up to $20,000, yeah, if you're gonna hit $20,000, it definitely should be a written one. But on the lower values, I'm talking about being between 3,000 and 10,000, because the cost of things right now are just gone real high anyways with the rate of inflation and everything. By next year at this time, who knows? This might not be in pocket change for most of us. I hope to God not, but it looks like the way we're going. Is it possible to split that where it would be like between 3 and 10 it could be oral, and up to 20 it would have to be written?
Well, what we would.
I disagree. I think any respectable business should have the ability to give you a written quote. I know in the business that I'm in, whenever I'm trying to get work, I have to give a formal quote, a written formal quote. Doesn't matter if it's oral or not. It could be a $750 job, or it can be a $1.5 million job. It doesn't matter. I still have to give a written quote. Any government entity, I mean, Sandia won't take an oral quote. Sandia Labs has to be written. Why should we hold ourselves to a lower standard? I think if we want, I think as a town, we should want the best. And I think if somebody, unfortunately, this might sound harsh, but if they don't have the ability to write a written quote, maybe they shouldn't get the work.
Well, they probably have the ability, like in my example, if somebody calls me, right, I'm gonna have to go back to my office. I'm gonna have to look everything up. I'm gonna have to provide the bios through my admin. There might be a delay in time, but they're still able to do it. It's not that you're not able, it's just that there's delays.
Well, then we wait. I think there has to be a formal quote process. Can't do it for one and not the other.
Can I speak, Mayor?
Yes.
So I'm speaking as a citizen now. I'm not speaking as planning and zoning, but I'm speaking from a perspective of having worked in governmental issues with the Attorney General's office. And what you're doing now is probably improper. This item is not on the agenda as public hearing. You're doing a call for public hearing. So any discussion about the ordinance should be done in a properly noticed public hearing ordinance review. And so I think what's on the agenda today or tonight is the call to have the public hearing. And so I would caution you that what you're doing is actually discussing what the ordinance should look like.
Sure, so we should.
And just as a citizen, what you're doing tonight is just saying, let's call, and then you have a public hearing where the public is noticed, and they can come in and comment, because it will be a comment period to what you're doing, and you have to do that by statute and open meeting and everything else. So I would just advise you, and I'm not trying to be critical in any way. I know you're trying to be open and transparent. We all recognize that, we all appreciate that, but I also want to protect the public. They have the right to know that you're doing this discussion, and they haven't been noticed that you're having this discussion.
Okay, thank you. Yes, this is definitely not an area where we should be making decisions tonight or anything. And as far as feedback goes, what we can do is, there's gonna be plenty of time. There's a month, before the hearing is even held. So that's plenty of time for feedback to be given. We don't have to go over that tonight. Of course, decisions are not to be made. Yes, Commissioner Brennan.
Well, on the agenda here, it says public hearing. So maybe I was misinformed, or there was a typo in here, because it says public hearing.
Right, there is in our packet.
It says public hearing on the agenda.
Just to clarify for everyone, there is a typo on our packet. We did not receive the latest agenda. The public does have that though. So this will be called, like I mentioned in the beginning, for March 15th. We have a month. So there's plenty of time to get feedback. We don't need to do that right now.
Yeah, my mistake, and I thought.
No, it should be, Commissioner Donner, it should be the right agenda, but we don't have that, so.
Okay.
So it's actually a call for the public hearing.
It is a call for public hearing.
I have a question though, maybe you can help us with this, Mr. Reno. It is on the agenda as discussion and action item, but then I guess it's.
The action item is when you do a call, it's a formal process. Okay. It's part of the ordinance adoption process. Okay. And again, this is one of the reasons why, and again, I'm speaking strictly as a citizen here, and when I was mayor, I always felt it was important that we had general counsel available. Not at every meeting, but it was always helpful to have an attorney present just for these kinds of issues, because, you're lay legislators and you're not attorneys, and you should not have to be able to make legal interpretation. I'm not an attorney, but I do have a background of dealing with these issues at the Attorney General's office, and so I have had some expertise, but I just want to advise you that in our agenda, it says it's a call for a public hearing, and that's why I interjected myself, because the public does have a right to be a part of everything that you were just talking about.
Sure, absolutely.
Yeah, I appreciate your advice and keeping us on track.
Yes.
All right, so the action item that we have is for the actual call for the public hearing. So I'll entertain a motion to call for public hearing on the Procurement Ordinance 2018-005 or 2022-01.
Second.
Can you make the motion?
I think you were gonna.
Oh, I said I entertained the motion.
Oh, I think you said, I didn't hear anything saying, I'm sorry.
That's okay. I'll go ahead and make it. That's fine. I make the motion to call for this on the procurement ordinance as stated in Commissioner Brennan's second. Any other discussion? I just want to encourage the public to reach out to us as we've already heard tonight, so you have the opportunity and the time to be involved and give us your feedback on this, okay? So that is the purpose, and I really appreciate it. Email, phone calls, whatever, we're open to that so that we can have these ordinances developed very well with this new form of government under commission manager. Any other discussion? All those in favor? Well, let's do a roll call. So we'll do Mayor Pro Tem Powers.
Aye.
Commissioner Anaya.
Aye.
Commissioner Donner.
Aye.
Commissioner Brennan.
Aye.
And I vote aye. Next, we have the Economic Development Ordinance and the call for public hearing on this. And Commissioner Donner, if you just want to give a brief summary, we won't get into any discussion amongst ourselves, but I'm sure you can introduce this to the public and to the commission, please.
Sure. This is an ordinance establishing an economic development committee, providing for its purpose, membership terms and duties, and providing for related matters.
It's no secret, I've been talking about this since I had been elected. We need to be self-sustaining. We've got some of the brightest people in the state living in Edgewood with a variety of different experience and expertise. We should be focusing on developing our town to be the hub of the East Mountains, to bring services here that'll keep people here and keep growing the town in a way that it should be grown. So that's the purpose of this ordinance in a nutshell.
Thank you, Commissioner. And thank you for the follow-through on doing what you said you would do. I respect that. So, anything else? Do we have a motion?
I'll make the motion to call for the public hearing on Economic Development Ordinance 2022-02.
I'll second. Any other comments, questions? Okay, we'll do roll call vote again. Commissioner Brennan?
Aye.
Commissioner Powers?
Aye.
Commissioner Naya?
Aye.
Commissioner Donner?
Aye.
And I vote aye. Next, call for public hearing on the Cannabis Ordinance 2022-03. Commissioner Brennan?
As it's already been pointed out, there are some mistakes in here that are going to have to be made. But what this is going to do is definitely set the groundwork and the standards for what businesses in Edgewood are going to follow that are going to be partaking in the cannabis industry. It's a real serious situation. Every town in this state is having to deal with it, and we were given a very, 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 very short period to do it, where most of the other towns have been working on this for well over a year already. And I welcome any input from the people to help us fine-tune this document, so that once we do get the final document and bring it forward, it won't be able to be contested, and we're going to be able to take that to the state and control the industry in this town as we see fit, because this is our town. All right. Outsiders are going to want to come in and do this type of business, and we want to make sure that they're following our rules, and we want to make sure our rules do align with the state law, so we don't end up having to spend a lot of money, fighting anything in court. It does cover a lot of areas as far as distances from schools, locations where the business itself can be operated, how those businesses are to be operated, the conditions that have to be met for those operations. It's going to cover the amount of business that can be within the town, their distance between each other. It's going to cover other areas such as the process of licensing and what is going to be involved as far as to get the licenses and what needs to be maintained in order to keep that licenses. The rules and regulations and the penalties for those who do not follow those. Like I said, it's not an easy one to work with. There's a lot of mixed feelings, but the majority of people that I've talked to feel very strongly about us maintaining a very strong ordinance to keep a tight rein on this industry.
Thank you, Commissioner Brennan. Do we have a motion?
Madam Mayor, I make a motion to approve a call for public hearing on Cannabis Ordinance 2022-03.
I'll second.
Okay, any comments, questions, discussion? Okay, Commissioner Brennan, go ahead.
Can I just say something?
Yeah, sure.
The cannabis thing is it's a hard thing for us to have to deal with. And I respect everybody's opinions on how they feel the cannabis ordinance should be written. And I think that those will be seriously considered. But I think we do have to come to the realization that this is happening. And we do have to look at the positive effects that the money that we can get from the tax on this
can be used to benefit the town in a positive way. That's just, I have to echo, Mr. Simons on that. I'm in total agreement. I don't agree with it, but it's here and we have to make the best of it and do what's best for our town with the ordinance and then with the funds that we get from the sale of the cannabis. So.
Okay, thank you. We'll do this on roll call. Mayor Pro Tem Powers.
Aye.
Commissioner Brennan.
Aye.
Commissioner Donner.
Aye.
Commissioner Anaya.
Aye.
And I vote aye. Call for a public hearing on Parks and Recreation Committee Ordinance 2022-04. Ralph Hill or Ben, did you want to address that any further? Feel free to come up.
Ralph Hill. The ordinance that's in place now, we tried very hard to change it, really didn't support the advisory committee. And we have one that we drafted back then, and Bryce has pretty much cleaned up everything we needed to change on this. And we, for one thing, we called for the 7 members. Of course, we've got 2 excellent candidates here. We've got Allison Apple and Mike Morrow that we want to add to our committee. So anyway, I don't know, I guess we could forward this to Stephanie and you all can look at it.
Okay, great, thank you. Do you have a motion?
I can make a motion that we approve the call for a public hearing on Parks and Recreation Committee Ordinance 2022-04.
I second.
Any discussion? Okay, Mayor Pro Tem Powers.
Aye.
I vote aye. Commissioner Anaya.
Aye.
Commissioner Donner.
Aye.
Commissioner Brennan.
Aye.
Next, we have discussion and action on usage, lease, or sale of Old Town Hall, Route 56. Just wanted to bring this forward again for public input and for the commission to be able to have the opportunity to discuss among the 5 of us what the preference is and what we think would be best for the town, what the public would like. I can tell you a little bit of history on this. It wasn't originally brought to the public to find out what they wanted. In the course of several different transactions and issues and cancellations of those transactions, we did, I did ask for public comment, and I think there's a variety of opinions on this issue. I think most people want to see it used or leased. I don't know about the sale as far as the town did put quite a bit of money into the land and the building. So I think there was some concern about the sale price and would we be recouping the amount that we have put into it. Yeah, I just wanted to add this on and open it up for discussion.
We're losing money with it just sitting there. So I think leasing it out, putting it up for lease would be an ideal situation for us.
Yeah, by putting that up for lease, I mean, that we maintain the ownership of the building and we then create a revenue stream from the lease coming to the town, and we can use all the money that we can generate ourselves in this town. We have an asset that should be used. Just like Commissioner Donner said, it's just sitting there doing nothing.
Excuse me, can I make a comment?
If there's no objection,
No objection.
No objection.
Okay, I would have waited, but since this is a topic of the moment, on Parks and Rec, we've been talking about various options available for the public and to encourage public participation in activities. We did talk about the old Edgewood Elementary buildings here, but obviously from a available right now. But with this building belonging directly to the town of Edgewood, would it be appropriate for us to consider that within the purview of Parks and Rec and perhaps some other advisory committees for use for auxiliary services, support, and recreational opportunities that we haven't had before? That's my thought.
Thanks.
Thank you. Yeah, I think it is important that it's used, one way or another. I think it's valuable. I don't really, want to see us go down the path of a sale unless we were gonna be able to recoup the cost that we have put into it. And, so we either need to lease it or at least maybe put it out there to see what it could lease for, or use it, for town purposes, youth programming, whatever it might be.
And you're recommending that we have a hearing, for the public to comment on what they would like to see the use.
Right, but I needed to, kind of open up that discussion. Definitely if there was going to be, a sale, of course, we have to follow the statute on that. We went through all of that mess last year. So there's very specific.
There's a space right down below here that says comments. General comments from the public.
We'll get to that in just a moment. Commissioner Nye?
We have to find something to do with this building.
Mm-hmm.
And it's also an opportunity, if we don't end up using it right now for town, it is an opportunity for another business that could provide services that we need to our space.
Yeah, it could be any type of service, medical. I think medical would be a good one for there, but I mean, there's a variety of different options that could go into that location there.
Commissioner Maya, any thoughts?
Madam Mayor, you and I had taken, and Kay, I believe, we took a drive down there and checked out the building itself, and we were hearing stories that the building is in disarray. Well, the building needs paint, and that's pretty much it. There's nothing wrong with the structure of the building. It doesn't leak. Everything was working in it. So the only thing that I can see for the building itself to benefit for the town of Edgewood is to lease it. It definitely do not want to sell the building. It's a great asset for us. It's a great location. It's got great parking. So we just need to figure out what it is that we could lease it for and what type of business or entity that could utilize the building in a lease, and whether it be a 5-10 year lease, whatever, or even a 1 year. Well, no, 5 minimum.
Okay. The other thing that comes to mind too is that the school district, again, I don't know if the board is going to actually add an action item to their agenda for this and get public input. Hopefully they do, in which case they could, make that decision then. But the building to the south is still available. It's not that, it can't be used right now. So, that's a conversation that we could have with them, as well as to, maybe they can make it available for recreation, and youth programming for sure, until they actually make the decision and have the timeline in place to tear the building down, if that's their decision. Because in the meantime, it could be used. I just wanted to mention that as well. So I'm hearing interest in leasing, not much for selling. What about using it ourselves? Do you think that's?
I think we ought to hear from the public on what we need. I was just gonna ask a question, if the daycare is gonna be displaced, is that certain?
Well, again, that's where the superintendent had asked, you know, the preschool to, find another place by June 30.
I mean, that seems like an opportunity for them, but possibly if they're gonna have to get booted out. Do you know what the square footage is relative on that building to the one to the south?
I think this building is much bigger here.
Madam Mayor, it wouldn't utilize, it would not work for a daycare center. For one reason, the parking lot over there is all paved. There would be no area for them to have a playground. So, I mean, it's a great idea, but,
I think they originally had thought of that originally. But, you know, so why don't we do this? Wait, let me get some more feedback from you guys as far as using the building for town operations.
for town,
Right.
well, what do we need right now? I mean, the only thing I could think of is making it, for the commissioners. But I don't really want to go over there. I kind of like being able to get all the, plans and things to look at as they're here. I don't want to have to move them over there.
Maybe we could put it out to the various committees, Parks and Rec, and different ones, let's look for if they need something or if they don't. Then we can have the public hearing, hear from the public about their ideas on it, and kind of go from there.
Yeah. We can, especially since this is a new commission, you know, we can ask for that feedback again. Of course, they had the opportunity tonight as well, but we can, yeah, that's fine, we can do that. So I don't think we actually need a motion at this point in time. If we want to, I guess, direct the town manager to look into options and next steps for leasing, that would be a good idea. And it sounds like that might be the direction we want to go.
You could put out RFIs.
Good.
For informational only.
We've heard quite a bit in the past. I don't know, Commissioner Powers, you know, if you've kind of seen some of that, but there has been a lot of opposition to the sale and preference for, you know, either leasing or using the building. So I think that we know that from the public, but I think it's good to have time to have the town manager look into the next steps on the different avenues, and then again, have a hearing for the public. So
anything we use the building for, we're gonna have to do maintenance on. Why not do maintenance on a building that we're getting paid for somebody to lease? My point of view.
Sure.
But I'm open to either.
So do we need to take a vote on directing the town manager, or?
No, I don't think so. I think we can just gather more information and then bring this back at the next meeting.
Okay.
Okay, next is the flagpole at entrance to town hall quotes and approval, and I think that Manager Davis had already provided us some information on that. And is there anything that you need to address or need from us on that?
Your permission.
Okay. So we did get the permission from the school district, and so I guess we could just make a vote to move forward with the installation of the flagpoles at the entrance.
Madam Mayor, I would like to add one thing on that. I know when we first brought it up, the cost that I was looking at a flagpole was quite a bit higher. Of course, the flagpole I was looking at was a rigid industrial pole. And after looking at the values of this and the cost and realizing that we don't own this building and we could end up at some point packing up and moving out, it would probably be better to go ahead and this type of flagpole it's considered a light commercial residential type pole.
Okay.
So, but which is the reason why it's substantially cheaper. And since we don't really own the building and the land around it, it would probably be the better bang for our buck.
Okay.
Is there any way we can add flagpoles for the memorial park over by the courthouse?
I thought that we had them. They're there. Yeah.
Oh, they're already there? Okay. I thought we had talked about getting, no lighting for it.
Maybe lighting.
There's lighting, I don't know to what extent, but there's lighting. The lights are lit.
So you still have a flag pole at the old town hall?
Okay.
Can you move that one someplace?
That's an option.
How high was it?
Is to pull a flagpole out of the ground.
There's a possibility of damage when we're, trying to remove it. And I don't know if it's, worth the cost versus what, the price that we have now.
It's pretty reasonable. You said $270, right?
Plus concrete.
And we have the labor, to do it.
Well,
So.
the pole itself is not gonna be in the concrete.
Yes.
The pole itself should be mounted.
Well.
It should have a mounting brace on the.
Yeah, these type of poles, you're gonna have a sleeve that goes in the ground. The sleeve is concreted and the pole slides into the sleeve and then
Okay,
pulls
that's
the
fine,
sleeve.
that's fine like that. But as long as the pole itself is not embedded in the concrete, you can't do that.
Yeah, the pole itself isn't permanently attached. I've done a few of these flag poles myself at my own residence, and they're not hard to put up. You just gotta make sure you don't do it when the wind's blowing, because you gotta make sure that thing stays level.
We'll call you a hanger.
Okay, do we have a motion?
Now, I make a motion that we, move forward with, obtaining the flagpole and, necessary materials to have it implanted in the ground.
I second.
Okay, any other comments? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, good, exciting. Next, animal control cages quote and approval. And on this one, I'm gonna recommend, to table this until the next meeting. So that would be March 1st. So that I can do a little homework on how the deposit may or may not be made, on these. And it really, with their useful life being so long, I would categorize that, hearing that tonight, I would categorize that as a capital asset. And so, I just need to check into that as far as how, because the company wants the payment half ahead of time. Usually with governments, they just use the purchase order, and they don't know, you're not really, normally putting out money in advance. So I guess I make a motion to table this till the next meeting.
Second.
Any other questions or discussion? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay. Next we have general public comments. Thank you. Okay, Ralph Hill.
Okay, thank you. I'll try to get all this in within 2 minutes, and I think, and I appreciate you all. It seems like you're reinventing this whole new town government. this is buy a brick. And we've been trying to find the money that we accumulated for this buy a brick, $6,500. And Stephanie, I don't think we've ever found it, have we?
It is there.
Yes, Mayor, it is in the budget, and it was $5,600.
Oh, you found it?
Yes.
Oh, good.
It is
Okay.
in there.
For that?
The other
No,
thing,
we sold a lot of bricks. We had, well.
Oh.
No, we had two sizes, and we did sell quite a few bricks.
so anyway, you're welcome to buy a brick.
Not for that.
I already bought one.
Another thing that's pretty critical is, the police department really needs a generator. I don't know if the chief's ever told you, if their power ever goes out and they got someone locked in, everything's on a time lock and they won't be able to get them out. And I think it was kind of overlooked by the last administration. It was brought up and nothing was done.
Yeah, go ahead, chief. Yeah, let's have the chief address that point.
Yes, that was being purchased under, the maintenance. It was discussed in one of the last council meetings, as far as purchasing, but, the new commission was elected, James left, so it was kind of pushed to the wayside. But yeah, that was part of it. That was gonna be purchased under, the maintenance departments, as far as keeping the generator there.
Okay, thank you. Manager Davis, you can have our new hire, put that on his list.
Yes, we will.
And the other thing is, as I recall during our budget meetings this fall, those cat cages, there's only two things that the animal shelter asked for. They said they desperately needed cat cages, they needed a vehicle. So I don't know why the administration previous never purchased those. It was really important to the animal control. And I guess my last comment is, it just seems like the Parks and Rec is behind on all these funding projects, and we're about to lose the grants we have. But it looks like we're going to be able to jump back in and save them.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Mayor, can I make a comment on Mayor?
Yes.
Can I make a comment when it comes to the vehicles? Just so you know, because we did purchase them, but due to Ford, that's the holdup, because we have two trucks, one being animal control. But I spoke to our dealership last week, and we're hoping, or at least they're hoping, March, April, if we're lucky. But it has to deal with the chip shortage. And just like everybody else, we're being affected by it, just so you know.
Okay, thank you, chief. Okay,
Chuck Ring, Ford Director, Lane, Edgewood, New Mexico. I want to talk about cannabis for just a minute, but I want to say that everybody should realize that cannabis is not spelled C-A-N-N-A-B-I-S. It's spelled M-O-N-E-Y. And the longer you have a cannabis ordinance, the more it'll change as you go on. I'm not saying I'm against it or for it, but I think you guys are starting out right. You're really concentrating on how to do it right, and keep at it that way, and I think we'll all be better for it. The other thing that I'd like to touch on pretty briefly is the building, the old town hall. When we purchased that building, along with the property, it was $279,000. I understand that we almost accepted a bid of $270,000, but something got messed up with that, and we never did sell it, which is a good thing. I hope that you will keep it and that you will lease it out to somebody that needs it and can make a future, or whatever they do will make the town better in the future, whether it's for the children, the parents, the grandparents, or whoever it might be. There are
there's ways to, lease that building where it'll retain its value, and, you'll also get something good for your buck, and you'll maybe be able to use that money for something else that will benefit the children or some other, project that you have. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is, Ray Sears. Did you? Yes. Mr. Seegers, come on up.
I did want to comment on the idea of a daycare center in the building, okay? Since you just got a brew pub next door, probably good, but the kids could play in the parking lot of the brew pub, okay? It just won't work, okay? But, you know, on that building, just to give you some ideas, it's probably worth about $12.50 a square foot. I'm in the building next door. I know all the rents there and this type of thing. And of course, we're in the management business. And you could probably make it a fairly net lease where most expenses, okay, would be on the tenant, but they'll pay their power, they'll pay their water, and you'll probably be responsible for the plumbing, okay? You can probably get about $12.50. The max you can probably get is $15 a square foot, but it's not quite that fancy around here. The competition is charging in a variety of buildings all around it and down the street about $12.50 a square foot. So that's your market, okay? And we know that market very well. So that's really all I have to say, but keep the kids out of the brew pub, okay?
How many square feet is that building?
About
2,700 square feet.
2,700?
We'll measure it.
Okay. It's pretty big, okay. Former Counselor Abraham.
Hi, Sherry Abraham, 21 Morpher Lane, Edgewood, New Mexico. I wanted to, after hearing you guys talk about Municipal Day and your meetings with Mr. Cog and stuff like that, I just wanted to say that it feels like there's a huge attack on local control for governments, for municipalities. And I'm glad that you guys are interested in protecting those rights that we have. I almost feel like there's an attack on municipalities because Edgewood citizens took their town back. And I'm so excited to see the citizens involved and all that kind of stuff. But if we lose those local controls, citizens can't take it back as easily as we did. And so I just want to say, I really urge you to protect those at all costs. We have to be able to control what happens in our town. And so, thank you for that.
Thank you. Martha Eden.
I'm Martha Eden, live at 30 Lucas Road. I want to applaud you for the sound. This is the first town meeting I've been to that I heard what everyone had to say. I'm literally the first one, and the pleasure it gives me is enormous. So you've done a great job of that. Secondly, adding back the comments that the general public makes into minutes is huge. That's our history, and we haven't had it for 4 years. And I think it's, they make comments, it tells you and the world what they're thinking. It's recorded in history, and it's invaluable, and I thank you so much for that. About 3 days, I read an article that the state engineer's office is in shambles. The director resigned. There's an acting director. People have left. The files are in disarray. So there's not going to be a whole lot of water rights monitoring or control coming from the state. And one of the ways, as Mr. Martinez said, that we can control the cannabis is to control the water rights. There are water rights in Edgewood. They're private and they can be bought and sold. If you can somehow get a water policy that the town can control those, and will help control at least the manufacturing part, the growing part. And that's really all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Bryce? Go ahead, Bryce.
Okay, I promise this is the last time tonight I'll get up here. I just wanted to make some comments about the flagpole. I'm really tickled you guys are moving ahead with that. But as an engineer, you got my spidey senses tingling a little bit. When you put a 30-foot pole up in the air in a 100-mile-an-hour wind, you put a couple flags on the top of that, you're exerting a huge moment on that. And when you take that moment down to the ground, then if you've got just a little bit of the piddly-ass concrete right there, pardon my French, it's going to be done in a hurry. We've got some liability exposure here I think we want to be careful of. So first thing I would strongly recommend is that we get a licensed geotechnical engineer to sign off on the footing on that flagpole. I think that's crucial. I think you need to make sure that you use the proper concrete in there. I would strongly recommend a minimum of 3,000 PSI air entrained concrete in there, because you're going to have frost resistance. You're going to have the ability to resist the elements of the weather, and you're going to need to make sure that the concrete will stand up over time. And lastly, like Bill was saying, you need to make sure how that flagpole is attached to the footing so that it carries the load, it distributes the load, but you don't snap it off like a matchstick when the first strong wind happens. So I like the idea. I really like having the lights on top of it, but I just want it to be a emblem of Edgewood. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, Brad?
I signed up and then I crossed my name off.
I know, I saw that.
Okay. Brad Hill, 251 Horton Road. So this is again, so I heard two things tonight. That one is kind of like a very intriguing idea, and I really appreciated it coming forward. And the second is there's kind of an issue of what to do with the old town building. But Commissioner Donner talked about trying to support home-based businesses in the town as an economic development initiative. What a lot of communities have done is created what they call like an economic incubator. And so there'll be a center in the town where there might be a support system for home-based businesses, where there might be maybe a heavy-duty copy machine, there might be other supports, there might be training programs for small business or medium-sized business. But it's just a thought. One of the options for that building might be to put a economic development small business incubator with some kind of thought given to home business and providing support to our home business community and create a sense of community to our home businesses. It's just a thought, so I'm just throwing that out there.
Thank you. Okay, yes, Commissioner Anaya.
Do you guys know if we have fiber optic out there, or is it Century, or what is it? It is fiber optic?
Plateau does have it. Plateau.
Thank you.
Okay, let's move to the callers. Caller 2. Jesus, if you can unmute caller number 2. Caller 2, do you have any comments? Hearing none, let's go to the go-to meeting attendees. Feel free to unmute yourself and give general public comments. No comments? Okay. Okay.
This is Linda Burke. Can I make comment?
Yes, absolutely.
So I wanted to comment on a couple of things. First of all, the idea of an economic incubator in Edgewood has been talked about in the past and would be a great opportunity. It wouldn't require full use of the building. So it might be the kind of project where a portion of the building could be retained and used by the town and another portion could be rented out. Because I do get calls often at the chamber. people asking about business rental space in the town, which we tend to have a shortage of. So those are some other ideas that might be helpful. This Saturday, I would like to remind all of you, the commission as well as the public, that we have a program happening at Edgewood Library that is in conjunction with a number of local organizations, including the Chamber, and it's called Old Roots and New Roots. And it really is a conversational opportunity to talk about some of Edgewood's history, as well as what's brought newcomers to our town, what people value about our town, and just a chance to reconnect as a community. And it's a great segue to our next program in March that will be our vision for the community. Again, a community conversation on that topic. So I'd like to invite everybody to participate in that, and you can join online as well as in person on Saturday at 10 o'clock in the morning. There's more information at the Chamber website, which is edgewoodchambernm.com. And I think that's all I have for tonight.
Thank you very much. Any others? Okay.
Can I ask you a quick question, please?
Any objections?
Yeah.
To Mr. Ring?
No.
Okay, come on up.
No.
No objections.
No objection. No, I'm not objecting, that's a question.
No, we don't have any objections to you coming up and speaking.
Well, I thought, the SAS building had been planned for what we're talking about.
That pipe is, that pipe.
So what does it do?
It is similar to that. It rents out
Incubator,
space.
right?
Yes.
It's an incubator, so is anybody availing herself of that? Do you know?
They do have some.
Huh?
They do have some, yes.
All right, thank you.
Good point. Okay, future meetings. We have our commission meetings. I guess we'll call a special meeting if we need to on anything. Future agenda items. We have some items here listed out that need to be addressed in the future. And then closed executive session to discuss threatened and possible litigation and current litigation as well, pending litigation. We just need a motion and roll call vote for us to go into closed session.
I'll make a motion that we go into closed executive session pursuant to an MSA set 1978, section 1015-187, regarding possible litigation by Horrocks Engineering and pending litigation in the Miguel et al. Versus John Bassett case, of the appeals case pending.
Second.
Any discussion? Okay, we'll do roll call vote. Mayor Pro Tem Powers.
Aye.
Commissioner Brennan.
Aye.
Commissioner Donner.
Aye.
Commissioner Anaya.
Aye.
And I vote aye. You're in closed session at 9:36. One's online, right? Okay, I need a motion to come back into open session.
Make a motion, we come back out of closed session.
I second.
Come back into open session.
Come back into open session, excuse me.
I second.
Okay. Commissioner Donner?
Aye.
Commissioner Brennan?
Aye.
Commissioner Ryan?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Powers?
Aye.
And aye. And then we need to do our, affirmations. I affirm that only the items on the agenda were discussed in closed session. I have no conflicts of interest, and, no decisions were made.
I so affirm.
I so affirm.
I so affirm.
I so affirm.
Okay, that's it, guys. Motion to adjourn.
So,
I second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Meeting adjourned at, 10:08. Thank you, everyone.
You were right. Had a bunch of